Hi, I'm Mimi Chan. Welcome to Culture Chat. Thanks for joining the conversation. It's the final episode of the Mimi and Greg show for 2020. Don't worry, Greg Rucka has graciously agreed to return for guest visits in 2021. When I met Greg Rucka in 2019, I would never have dreamed we would be speaking weekly. I encourage listeners to go back and check out some of our greatest hits if you missed previous shows. In this episode, Greg discusses holiday traditions and answers listener questions about comics. Greg also reads the poem Marwan Kenzari sent during the filming of The Old Guard. 2020 was a rough year, but these weekly conversations with Greg Rucka have been a lifeline in getting through the pandemic. I am extremely grateful to Greg for taking time to have these thought-provoking conversations about politics, comics, and life. I would like to take this moment to thank you also for listening and asking questions. A special shout out to my patrons of the show who make it possible for me to continue my podcast journey. Your support is so appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope everyone has an amazing December, and here's to a brighter 2021. For those that don't already know, Greg Rucka is a New York Times best-selling author of hundreds of comics and nearly 24 novels. He's also the writer for the hit film The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I'm loving these conversations and hope you are too. If you are, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. Share the joy. If you would like to become a patron of the show to help keep this podcast going, you can do so on my website or visiting patreon.com. I would appreciate it. For comments or suggestions, email me at mimi@culturechatpodcast.com or reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now, on with the show. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Mimi. Happy September and almost end of year.
Yes, we made it.
My friend Richard Howe described 2020 as the longest decade of his life.
Oh, we've been feeling it.
I thought that was pretty fair.
Very accurate.
But yeah, this is our last one before 2021.
Yes, we'll be taking a big holiday break. Speaking of holiday, we kind of got into it a little bit last time, but of course Hanukkah started, and you have opinions and feelings, and
yeah,
I want to know about all your traditions and stuff for holiday.
I'm not it's funny because when you grow up Jewish, you're like, you grow up Jewish in the U.S. and there's Christmas everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Christmas is fun and it's beautiful and it has trees and
lights and presents.
And when you were small, you're like, oh, okay, well, at least I get 8 nights. But then what happens is you get 7 nights of crap. And then on the 8th night, you get like the good present that you had wanted. So it is. If you've seen the David Diggs puppy for Hanukkah video that's been done, okay, you got to find this and put it in the link.
Put it on there. Yeah.
And apparently, and I say David Diggs, that's not fair. It's clipping. Was sort of approached, I guess, by Disney to say, can you do a Hanukkah song?
Yeah.
And it's this lovely little Hanukkah song called, I Want a Puppy for Hanukkah. And one of the riffs, if you see this little video, is all the other things that, like, literally the kid gets socks, a sweater, an umbrella. That's what Hanukkah was like growing up. And when you are 8 and you get socks, it is very difficult to fake graciousness.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
It is really hard to go, thank you, when you're like, I don't want the last thing, you don't really appreciate socks as a gift until you're in your 50s. and I mean that in all sincerity. So Hanukkah becomes, I think, for a lot of non-Orthodox, non-traditional Jews, sort of consolation holiday, right? The older you get, the more you understand that what Christmas is and what Hanukkah is, they are these holidays that actually were co-opting pagan rituals, about darkness and light. right?
Mm-hmm.
So the story goes, and I may have all the details wrong, that at a certain point, all the rabbis looked around and said, "Gosh, shit, we got to come up with something for the end of December. Let's look at the Hebrew calendar and what do we got?" And what they've got is the Maccabee uprising, and the reclamation of the Holy Temple after the occupation and so on. But the thing about the Maccabees is that they are an outlier in Judaism, because Judaism is a religion, and it's one of the things that I've actually always kind of dug about Judaism. Judaism as a religion does not allow you to forcibly convert. All right? You cannot ride into a town, put a whole bunch of people to the sword and say, either you all become Jewish or you all become dead, right? Mm-hmm. Unlike, say, lots of other religions, in which case that is considered a valid means of conversion. Except the Maccabees pulled that. And the Maccabees are portrayed around Hanukkah when you're a kid as these great freedom fighters and the Maccabee brothers, and they fought to, liberate the temple and expel the invader. And then, like, the more you find out, the more you're like, oh no, they were terrorists. and terrorists who fight an occupying force, we call freedom fighters. Mm. Right? I mean, that's how we recast it. But they are not particularly a portion of Judaic history that I feel should be glorified. Now, right. The holiday itself is quite pretty and delightful and celebrates, in theory, this miracle of light, right? That there is in the temple, and you'll see this replicated in synagogues. There's always supposed to be a lamp burning; it never goes out. Mm-hmm. And when the temple had been finally liberated, they discovered that this lamp had, I guess, been damaged, and the oil supply for it was incredibly reduced. And to keep it burning, it took the oil was not supposed to last before they could get it replaced. Mm-hmm. And the miracle is that it burned for 8 days until it could. So in the sense of looking for holidays during the darkest time of the year, where you go, ooh, light, pretty, Hanukkah fits the bill perfectly well, and it's kind of weird because oil figures prominently culturally in it, so you get a lot of fried foods, right? Latkes are deep fried. Jelly donuts are considered a traditional dessert item. Yes, because you fry them, yes, right? Yes, you do. and so there you go. So, and then to top all this off, and now, I mean, we're playing fast and loose with the holiday. Jen did not get home from quarantine until late Saturday, which meant that the first couple of days of Hanukkah, not only, had my birthday happened and it was like, well, this is no fun opening presents, just me and Dashel. Mm-hmm. Then we were going to start Hanukkah, and Jen wasn't here. So Dashel and I sort of made this executive call saying Hanukkah doesn't start until Mom gets back.
Right.
So
extend the 8. You still get the 8 days.
No, we just started 3 days late. We just started 3 days late.
Okay.
And I don't know, and this goes to an entirely different, we are literally talking about things that are not important at all.
I'm fascinated,
I don't know if you've had this problem this year. I have been horrible about gift giving, and I like giving presents. I enjoy trying to come up with a nice, the puzzle, and I want to be able to give or something special. And I don't give a lot of presents, which I suppose says something about my social circle. But this year has been horrible for shopping. It has been so difficult. Not wanting to give my money to Amazon.
Yeah.
Has made it a far more complicated process. And I wonder how much of that is me just becoming lazy right? It's like, it used to be you go to Amazon, you used to be. There was a time before Amazon where you actually had to do the work.
Yeah.
And now it's as if I've forgotten how to do it. So I have been really bad about gifts this year.
Well, I mean, the gift part, I think I know what you mean though, because there is something about like you're so excited when you nail it and you've nailed it and you're just really happy because it's going to be meaningful or it's going to be exciting for that person.
Yeah, like if you can give them something and
you're
that
bringing joy.
or they're going to be touched. Like I
Right.
got Fraction's birthday is just a couple days after mine.
Oh,
And
I wish I'd known that.
and last year, I had found Matt. I'm now going to talk about the secrets of Matt Fraction, the writer.
He doesn't mind. He's very open book. I could say that because he's told me that.
But he's got a very different. We are very different writers, and his process fascinates me. He does a lot of notebook work. He works with lots of, and by notebook work, I mean, he works in different colors and many pages and really makes the process of his writing very tactile in the pre-writing phase. Like before he actually sits down to start typing the script, there's an enormous amount of work.
Wow.
That he puts in. And it is fascinating for me to see in glimpses. And I found last year, like in late August or something, I found this place out of Turkey that was doing they were doing these kind of things. I don't know how to describe this. It's basically
like
this
big leather binder, custom
leather
portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had gotten myself this enormous thing. This is, I guess, an A4 size because their sizes are European.
Pretty hefty.
Yeah, and they had some other cool stuff. They had like pen pouches and so on. Yeah. I'm looking at the site, and they had found the designs for Thomas Jefferson's writing desk. Like he had a portable writing desk he had constructed. And they were replicating it. And it was this beautiful writing box. And I was like, oh, okay, I gotta, that I saw that and I was like, that's got his name all over it.
Yeah.
So, and I was able to order it far enough in advance that it arrived so that I'd been sitting on it. So I got to give it to him. And it turned out that, as he described it, growing up, he had had something very much like it.
Oh.
So it was one of those ones where you're like,
yes, nailed it. Yeah.
Nailed it. Yes, nailed it.
Yeah.
And this year I'm like, yeah, you want a gift certificate? I don't know what to get you, buddy. I'm sorry. So
no, I don't know because it's weird because my husband Oscar would say the opposite, that I'm very good at gift giving, but I am a big kind of grumpy about shopping and stuff like that. I've never been a shopper or anything like that, but I do really like to think about it. Kind of like what you said, like if I remember someone said something, I want to write that down as a note so that later on I can have that ready in case I, for gifts. But
like if I can find the right thing, that's sort of like every now and then I'll see something and I'll just, that moment when you find something comes across your view and you're like, that would be perfect for.
Yes.
So, and I guess one of my frustrations with gift giving this year is that I've only got like 2 of those for like the 10 or 12 people that I really, want to, what did I get Jen? Nothing, So Jen has bought herself things and said, these are from you. I'm like, okay.
You're welcome.
All right.
It'll come to you. It's kind of like writing, right? Like you have the block or it's not there and that creates.
Yeah. The problem is the deadline on this
not
sneaks
really.
up and yeah.
Well, we're all like, I'm guessing your circle of friends are all adults, so I don't think anyone would be upset if like,
Most of them, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, I can't believe you didn't remember my birthday, or, like, I don't think anybody will be upset. It's not like a disappointing an 8 or 10-year-old.
Yeah.
That's a lot different.
Well, and my friend Oz and I are now in this weird sort of gift escalation phase.
Oh man.
Where
that's not good.
Every time he sends something and I'm like, you didn't need to, and he's like, it's a gift, not a tribute. And then I'll send something back and he'll be like, you, and I'll say, it's a gift, not a tribute. So that has now been going on for about 2.5 years.
I love it. I love it.
It's getting a little out of control. So, yeah.
So, all right. So you did do gifts then, like you did open your birthday presents and some
I
gifts.
did.
So obviously now you appreciate socks.
You were very sweet.
Oh.
You were very sweet. I got, yeah. And I got to, I didn't ask, that there was no list,
you don't write out a list anymore.
I have like an Amazon list that I'll throw things on to every now and then.
Yeah, just as like so you remember in case you need it, or you don't need it yet, or yeah.
Right, but there are things on that
share
list
that though?
Yeah, I mean it's out there, but there are literally things on that list that I'm never getting as a gift. Like, and some of it is old now. It's like, I'd like this complete set of things from 2014. It's like, if you can find it, it's going to be $900.
Oh my God.
I don't expect anybody to get that point. I would be stunned.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, my brother got me this Dire Straits boxed set on vinyl that I love.
Of course,
because they are probably my favorite band ever, because I'm of that era and that age. Yeah, I am very fortunate. I really am very fortunate to have turned 51 and really want for nothing. If I am fair and honest about my life, I have too much stuff. I do not need more stuff. And so, being able to tell my mom, just donate to the, Senate campaigns in Georgia.
Right.
Yeah. That's
that
a
would
fine
be a
gift.
That would be a great gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. So, it seems like you and I are always like looking to that next deadline / thing. And it's like, how is this going to go? Like, what direction are we headed? But Oscar and I were talking about the same thing. And he likes to tease his mother that she's, obviously she's super Catholic, she's super religious, and he'll always say stuff just to give her a hard time. Like, the most important thing about Christmas is presents. And she gets, Oscar, don't say that. But it's true. We were just talking, like, it's all first world problems. And we were talking earlier as well about that, like all the things that we kind of complain about, or the issues in life. We are all like super fortunate. I mean, the fact that I can sit here and talk to you through all this technology and we're doing okay. Yeah, no,
we are really lucky people.
Absolutely.
And I am, I have, and this week in particular, I am very mindful of that. We given the hardships of this year for so many, where we are right now, and we had some really, we had a very fortunate week. We got some really good news, and yeah, I have spent the last couple of days being very mindful that in the grand scheme of things, I got nothing to complain about.
Yeah, I do kind of a holiday, like annual, hey everybody, here's what's going on with my life. I haven't talked to you in a year, but this is the one I send out. And it just basically became like an exercise in gratitude, because Oscar and I and you and I have talked about this as well on the podcast, about how that is just such an important practice, because it really makes you, even when you're feeling bad, it kind of will bring you out of it, because it really kind of puts things in perspective. And so just like that gratitude practice. So, and I think like anything else, like this year, especially for everybody, it's a good thing to think about as we go into holidays and traditions and whatnot. So how about New Year's? Do you have big party planned?
we used to do a lot. We used to do a New Year's thing where we would get together with friends and we would spend that night gaming.
Oh,
right? That obviously will not be happening.
Like traditional board games and
no, we would do our RPG stuff.
Okay.
And this year, I suspect it's going to be a very quiet night, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I think we just want to get to the next year at this point.
Yes.
We're just pushing through.
I would just really, really like to be able to survive.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And you and I were off for 1 week, but basically lots of like kind of hopeful sort of things are happening. We're looking towards, like, of course we've got our fingers crossed for Georgia,
We're counting down,
but like technically there's a vaccine out. I've got nurses that are my students that are literally getting it tomorrow, and they're frightened and excited all at the same time. There's lots of different emotions, but
you see the thing in the news about like half the Texas healthcare workers are refusing to get vaccinated or something like that.
No.
Yeah.
So I have to thank Texas for making Florida not look as bad in the last month or so, because usually we win, and I think they've been winning. I've been keeping tabs. They're.
I was going to say that is the race to the bottom. There is probably not one you want to call, but okay.
No, but I just like not being the worst all the time. I mean, our governor someone needs to just gag him so he can't speak anymore, and then things will be better.
He's a piece of work.
Yeah. Next subject.
Moving on.
So no, I wanted to hear a little bit about your holiday traditions and what you guys are doing, and it's just such a weird time for everybody in their own kind of celebration. But I think at the end of the day, we are all celebrating because we're gonna have a new president. We're going to move forward. Yes. The vaccine's coming out. So it almost feels like it's all, I'm not one of those, new year, all these things are going to happen, but literally it feels this way this year. Like so much is happening for this new year. So, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, no, there is a feeling of having, survived.
Right.
I guess that is the best way to put it.
Yeah,
it feels as if we have survived.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yes. Well, it was funny because I was looking at some of our comments from, through these several months that we've spent together, and there were some dark episodes in there, and our listeners were like, yeah, some of these were pretty dark, but I needed to hear
Some of these are harder to hear.
Some of these are harder to hear, yeah, but it's been fascinating, and that alone has made this year amazing for me. So it's I think this is episode technically 32, which means 33 counting my first Portland one, I believe. So that's pretty amazing.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
We have talked a lot.
Yes. We did real well. Being that we picked up in March, I think is when we started.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's been
about quarantine time. Yeah.
Yes. Well, like I tell everybody that you introduced me to, or other creators that I have on the show, it's like, yeah, Greg made the mistake of saying, well, I'll just talk to you through the pandemic every week. I'll put it on the calendar.
We're going to have to eventually figure out if there's going to be an exit date.
Yeah, I know. So we'll just keep riding the wave. Maybe we'll do like monthly or, but I think I'll go into withdrawals if I don't talk to you now. So
I don't want that.
I know. And all the fans now, they're
was this last week particularly difficult?
Nah, ironically it was. So one is, as I was a little under the weather with allergies this week, but then, you weren't able to meet up. And normally that just means for me, I'm like, okay, I'll just replace it with a ton of work stuff. But it was just like, first world problem stuffs, but like there was so many things that seemed to go wrong. And so that's why I'm trying to focus on new year, good
Yeah.
things, and we're getting there. And so it's always a rough week when I don't talk to Greg.
Aww.
So no, it's been super therapeutic, and as you know, I'm super grateful for all the time that we've shared.
Well,
So
this has been good for both of us.
All right, so we'll tackle some listener questions.
Yeah, so I am still trying to find out what the book was Nikki was reading. But I found one of the poems that Marwan had sent. And he sent an email that the subject line was Neruda poem that reminds me of the relationship between Joe and Nikki. And the poem goes, I do not love you as if you were salt rose or topaz, or the arrow of carnations the fire shoots off. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved, in secret between the shadow and the soul. I love you as the plant that never blooms, but carries in itself the light of hidden flowers. Thanks to your love, a certain solid fragrance, risen from the earth, lives darkly in my body. I love you without knowing how, or when, or from where. I love you straightforwardly, without complexities or pride, so I love you because I know no other way than this, where I does not exist, nor you, so close that your hand on my chest is my hand, so close that your eyes close as I fall asleep. So I think that tells you something about Marwan, if nothing else.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's pretty sexy, actually.
Yeah,
It's got some of that good Pablo Neruda action going there. So, yeah.
Wowzers. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for looking for that and sharing. And as you know, you have a ton of Old Guard fans. We got another slew of questions, which we're not going to tackle because I will tell listeners, episode 209 has a lot of those answers to Old Guard
stuff. Are we repeating again?
Yeah, that you and I spoke about, plus, you know, the pseudo exclusive about the next releases and all of that with the comics. So I'm going to tell listeners to go there. But you did have more listeners telling you just thank you for it because it was the shittiest year and the Old Guard was such a bright spot. So I did want to share that because there, you know, it's that joy because I know you and I have talked a lot in the last 30 plus episodes about the difficulty of just the routine, trying to do our work, trying to be productive when you just feel so weighted down and so it's so much despair. And the work that you have done and continue to do obviously is making a huge difference in people's lives. So want to encourage that.
That is always good to hear. It has been really hard. Yeah. It has been really, really hard to do the work. And I am very much looking forward to I'm looking forward to 2021 starting because it does feel like I get to make a break. You know, I get to clean it out and say, let's go. Let's do it again. I mean, to such an extent, I've actually been looking around the pigsty of my office and going, all right, we're going to take a day and get things sorted and cleaned in here. And it's been a while, you know, we got to get some stuff off of the chairs and see if we can't make things go.
Yeah. So. It must be hard though, because when you're in projects and you're in multiple projects right now, you shared last time about the research and just the fact that you've got spell books and all this stuff because of black magic and all these things pile up. But then at the same time, you're still in the projects. So I imagine you want to be able to reference them, but then you don't need it's hard.
That's exactly how you get the clutter is that things just start piling up. And, you know, I mean, literally I'm sitting at a desk. There's almost no free room on this desk. I mean, and that's not good for a desk, right? I mean, I should be able to, if I need to open something, I shouldn't have to move everything to open it.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
Talking to a minimalist here, I'm going, let me come and help you. Right?
Yeah, no, this would drive you crazy. This would sincerely drive you crazy.
Yes.
The organization, yeah. Yep.
But you
Yep.
know where everything is, right? So.
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a myth. I know where most things are. I know where many things are. I do not know where everything is, and things get lost. And that is a problem.
Okay.
That is indeed a problem.
Yes.
So.
All right. Next question is,
yes.
BCDERV wants to know, why do Marvel movies make bolder political statements than Marvel comics, in your opinion? Or do you think that's a true statement?
I'm not sure it is a true statement.
Yeah.
But I think that across the board, mainstream comics are conservative.
Mm.
And that isn't to say politically conservative. It is to say they do not change easily or quickly. And movies in the main have to react to the society they're presenting themselves to, or else they're not relevant. So for that reason alone, right, I would think that the films, they have to attempt to engage more broadly. Mm-hmm. And comics don't. When you think about it, look, I hate to say this, the comic book readership in this country, and I love them. I love the people who love the form and who make it possible for me to make a living at it. There aren't a lot of them. In a country of 300 million, I would argue there maybe 1 million to 2 million regular comic book readers. At the most. Yeah. At the most. And that's not counting the fans of like Randa Tegelmeyer
because that's
because that's it. Yeah. That is it. I'm talking about people who know about comic book stores, who pick up superhero comics, who pick up things like Saga and so on.
And they go to their store every week going, when's the release?
You got it.
And
the numbers on, books like, look, The Old Guard is a successful comic. It doesn't clear 30,000 readers an issue. Wow. That's a minuscule portion of the population. Yeah. Now, if the biggest comic book that is being published by Marvel or a DC maybe hits 500,000 readers, that's still almost negligible. Mm-hmm. I mean, financially, it's not. Yeah. But in terms of population penetration, and I would argue that when you are now reaching for a deeper penetration or a broader penetration, so you're trying to put your DC books into Walmart, you are going to become even more conservative. Mm-hmm. They are always going to play it safe. But it is a risk-adverse, for at least the big two, it is a risk-adverse industry. Mm-hmm. And the reward for taking risks is much greater. If you're Disney Plus and you're doing a WandaVision show, you know what I mean? You can do something bold and daring there. So
that makes complete sense as to why I typically don't read a lot of the bigger comic. I tend to gravitate towards Lazarus, for example. Like, this is why I stalked down Greg, and I'm like, I need to talk to you because you're speaking to me. So that makes a lot of sense. Actually, it's very the depth there is a lot different. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to see, and it's ironic when you think about writers like Stan Lee. Mm-hmm. And Denny O'Neil, mm-hmm. Who actively engaged, social issues. But and that's not to say that comics never have done that. Comics have always been political. I get no end of annoyed when people are like, yeah, I do bring politics into my comics. It was like, right, because Captain America punching Hitler wasn't political. It's been there from the start.
Yeah.
Right. You don't get to pretend this is a new thing that we're suddenly adding peanut butter to your chocolate. It was always like this. It's simply that mainstream comics always plays it safe. And the best example I can give about that is when I was doing the Wonder Woman Rebirth run, and I said on record more than once, of course she's queer. There's no discussion to be had there. There was arranged by DC a very specific interview with a very specific journalist, who covers comics. And on that, DC actually had somebody on that call to make sure that, the questions were okay and the answers were okay.
Wow.
When for the rest of the world, this was a non-issue. It really was a non-issue. It was an asked and answered question.
Yeah.
It was just anybody with an ounce of common sense was going to say, of course she had relationships with other women. She would have had to.
Right.
It doesn't make sense not to. Right. And one can make a very persuasive argument that it is vital to the character that she did. For a character who believes in love so much to have never experienced romantic love until she meets a guy for the first time is sexist. It is a fundamentally sexist and homophobic stance to say that until she met a penis, she didn't know what love was.
Right.
And that is something that you can shy away from in 1940. But in 2018, 2017, 2016, if you're going to flinch in the face of that, that's because you're a chicken shit. Because your audience may not like it.
Yeah.
But the argument around it is a different argument. We talk about this now. You didn't talk about it in 1940.
Right.
So, I don't know if that answers the question, but
well, I think it gave even more than the listener.
Well, it certainly was. It certainly was a 20-minute digression. So,
that's okay. We love those. That's what we do here.
That's right. We live for these.
We live for these. Speaking of making statements in comics, Chandler wants to know, what was your inspiration for Detective Chris Allen in Gotham Central? And I know you've answered this before.
Oh no, that was a straight up steal. That was a straight up steal. That was Andre Braugher playing Frank Pembleton in Homicide: Life on the Street. And so much of what Ed and I did at the start of Central was based on David Simon's work, and the book that he wrote called Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets. And I have a copy. It's one of my prized possessions, actually. It's a first edition of the book. But yeah, it was the book that that sort of exploded David Simon into David Simonness. And certainly for me, I loved the book. I thought it was a brilliantly written piece of journalism. And I think it stands to this day. And so Ed and I were both heavily influenced by that. And I had known, I wanted more diversity in the squad room. I liked the idea of a detective who was going to come in and challenge the preconceptions of Gotham. And I have never liked Harvey Bullock as a character. I wanted Renee to partner with a better detective.
Right.
Because I think Harvey Bullock is a horrible cop. And it pisses me off to no end that he keeps coming back and that people think he's cool. Dirty Harry is a great anti-hero. Superhero comics are not about anti-heroes. Bullock is a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
He's a criminal. He is a perfect example of the reason why people are saying ACAB. He is an ACAB cop. He isn't all cops are bastards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it mattered to me what we were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so.
Definitely. All right. Atom Gillespie wants to know, as a creator of your own characters, what value do you find in writing established characters?
Oh, I find a lot of it. I mean, look, these are brilliant toys, you know, that people have created, and being able to climb onto that soapbox that they provide and sort of project with them is, you know, it is in and of itself its own reward. The pleasure that comes from being able to play in sandboxes that I have loved from outside cannot be overstated. You know, I have done very little that is meaningful in Star Wars, right? But if you're watching The Mandalorian, they mentioned Operation Cinder. Mm-hmm. I created that, right? That didn't exist until I put it out there in Shattered Empire.
Yeah. And
it has now become deeply part of the canon following Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. If you played Battlefront 2, there's the cutscene of sort of the Emperor's voice, mm-hmm. this droid that looks like an Imperial Guard, but it's got this projection face. Within is sort of this hologram of the Emperor. Uh-huh. That was me. Came up with that. It's not my design. I believe it was Marco Cicchetto mm-hmm. who drew it, but that's how we got there, right?
Right.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is that of any socially redeeming value at all? No, not at all. It's just fun, and hopefully people have dug it, and I get to look at it and be like, hey, I did that. To be able to write Renee Montoya coming out at a time when that story was not a story that was being told. I could have written that story in a creator-owned book. It would not have reached as many of the people who perhaps it reached at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And I have had, and I will have until the day I die at conventions, people come up to me and say, this mattered to me. This was important to me. This saved me. So there is immediate merit in that. I got an email on Lazarus yesterday from a reader who specifically said, please don't publish this letter, mm-hmm. but went on to say that something in Risen 5 resonated very deeply with them. Mm-hmm. And they were grateful to see it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it goes, it's a two-way street. There is an argument to be made somewhat persuasively, you know, if you're a Robert Kirkman, you know, to say you don't need this anymore and you can all do it yourself, but not everybody's gonna have the success of The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is gonna be able to do that. I am probably done with mainstream comics. You know, and I say this in December of 2020 as a 51-year-old guy in my office. I don't see working for DC or Marvel again. Mm-hmm. All right. I have been there plenty long, certainly at DC. And if nothing else, I think it is time for me to get the hell out of the way and let some new voices and younger voices and voices who see the world in ways that I do not and cannot, no matter how hard I try, come in and say, you know what, let's look at it like this. Mm-hmm. Here's an idea. And I don't think that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I wouldn't trade having gotten to work on these characters. There's a lot I would trade about the environment,
Yeah.
and having had to endure it.
Yes.
but I don't think that it is as simple as we don't dismiss out of hand. And I'll give you the best example I can think of is Brian Bendis. Okay, the best example I can think of is Brian Bendis. Brian had no reason at all to stay at Marvel 10 years ago, 15 years ago. None. He would have been perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Miles Morales wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And Miles Morales is arguably the most important mainstream comic book character to be introduced in certainly the last 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And without Miles Morales, you don't get Naomi. Mm-hmm. And Naomi's going to be on TV.
It's awesome. Yep.
So, there is merit. We have to see ourselves and the things about the Marvels and the DCs is they built these great big buildings that you could climb up to the top of and use.
Yes.
There are more people who have read my Wonder Woman, and my Wonder Woman wasn't exceptionally record-breaking in its sales, but more people read my worst-selling issue of Wonder Woman than my best-selling issue of Lazarus.
And that's so sad. We're going to work on that.
We'll see.
I like campaign Lazarus over here. Now, Wonder Woman is great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah,
obviously, that was a huge draw as well because I love Wonder Woman. But but Lazarus is just so special. It is just such a phenomenal thing. And I told you we've been rereading it, and Oscar is we just can't stop talking about how amazing it is. And we're just like, man,
no pressure.
I told them, I go, yeah. And then there's like this bittersweetness because Greg's like, yeah, we've got about 4 years. And I'm like, what? Because on one hand, I just want to know everything. And the other, I don't want it to end. So it's, no pressure, Greg.
It's got to end. That is a story with an ending.
I know.
It is a story with an ending.
So speaking of Lazarus, I think these are two quick and easier ones. So there was a question about last week's episode to have some clarification on Forever 8
yes.
And if all of the scenes with Little Forever were all 8, or were any of them flashbacks of 7?
No, you have never seen a flashback of 7. The sequence in Lift is entirely, and the way you can tell is that there's no date stamp on it.
That's what they were like. We didn't see any dates.
Exactly. Every time, and it was entirely me playing with your expectations.
Yes. Well done. We're all confused.
The reader expectations.
We were.
This must be Young Forever.
Yeah.
Nope, you were never looking at Young Forever. Now you can extrapolate from 8's experiences
that is similar.
That Forever went through very similar ones.
Right.
But you never saw Forever at that age. You have only ever seen 8.
Yeah. Okay. And then another question was, after the conclave, when Hawk was able to kind of spit on Carlisle and all of that, there was a question of like, did he just like have this like escape pod and he was able to leave so quickly and there was all these Lazari around, or was it just that there was an accord and everybody was like at the almost like the United UN,
you weren't.
Or
I mean, I suppose you could have argued that somebody could have turned to Forever and say go and kill him. But Malcolm was in cardiac shock,
right?
And
so they were tending to him,
and everybody was fleeing. Because everybody knew, okay, all bets are off.
I see.
So honestly, I suspect it was less a murder sequence at the end of The Godfather than it was a really bad analogy. It was more a Looney Tunes. Of course, this means war. But that's what it was.
Right,
it was very much, this is a declaration of war.
Yeah, like threw down the gauntlet and okay. Yeah. All right, cool.
And you will note, I would point this out as well.
Mm-hmm.
When nations go to war, you don't see the presidents fighting each other.
Right, right.
They immediately send out their soldiers to do the dying. And
Especially these
was,
family heads, we know that they're not going to get their,
No, they're
answers
not
if they
about
can
to
help
put
it.
themselves on the line.
No, definitely not. Okay. And speaking of, just two quicker questions, and then I want to get back to Lazarus. But one says, Sam E asks, who's your all-time favorite character? I'm guessing in comics. That's such a hard question.
That is a really, really hard question. And I'm going to pass.
Okay.
And they have to refine it.
Yes. Agreed.
And if they want to say, and literally, I'll do movies, novels.
Right.
We can spend a half an hour on it.
Okay.
When
we'll
we're back in
table that when we come back. Yeah.
But that one, it's too broad.
It's too broad. That's what I thought. Because I was going to say we should kind of dissect that a little.
That I've created, that I've ever written, that I've ever seen. I
think we can dissect that one too, because I love your reasonings behind things, and usually those take a little time to explain. So we'll dedicate an episode.
And the problem is that if you ask me right now, it's going to be different in 30 seconds.
Right.
That's
why I don't like all-time favorite questions. But
it's hard.
I was curious where that would take.
Top 10 lists are a little easier because if I don't have to rank them, just give me 10.
Oh, just 10. Yeah. The ranking thing is always hard. So, okay. So I lied. Two quicker questions. Scott at the right says, more Stumptown comics in the future or Jad Bell novels? And I'll tell him that we've done novel talk, so I'll just put the episode number on that, but you can comment if you like.
It is very unlikely that there will be more Jad Bell. The quick version is the relationship with Mulholland was very bad, ended very badly, and honestly, Charlie needed to follow pretty quickly on Bravo, and it's now been 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Justin and I are working on more Stumptown.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you are a busy bee. All right. Leandrold Mesquino asks, you're walking the streets, you turn the corner and see 45 standing there. What do you do? I don't know if that was for you or me.
Oh my God.
I almost
what do
didn't
I
ask
really
this.
do?
I know. I was like, in my fantasy world where there's no repercussions.
I don't know what I do.
Me neither. I thought that was a really hard one.
That is a really hard one.
Right.
If I was in law enforcement, I'd arrest him.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what I was gonna say. Call the police, but we'd have to have a.
If I was, if I was possessed of one supernatural ability, in that moment, I would reach out and give him empathy.
Wow.
I would literally do to him. I would Charles Dickens him in A Christmas Carol so hard. So hard. I would just be, because honestly, as much spite and bile and as hungry as I am to see justice done, I wish more than anything in a way that people like Trump and McConnell understood the pain and fear and hurt they have inflicted on so many for so long, that the lack of empathy is so toxic, it has destroyed this country and may never, ever be healed. So I don't, yeah, I mean, that's a really, really good question, because as much as you can look at it and be like, that's kind of a glib question. And I get it. I mean, like, here's a good one. It's a good question. But if you really think about it, there is no easy answer to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, I would wish for one moment to be able to make this person see what they have done, and for this person to understand how they have hurt those around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and I'm talking from barren, you know, to
Yep.
to my trans friends,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to my non-white friends, you know, to people who in 2016 started having to go out with their passport in their pocket so they could prove they were a citizen in case they got stopped.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. There you go. That one's heavy.
It's heavy. Well, you're better than I am. I'd go Forever Carlisle on him like Murray.
Yeah, well, see, you're physically capable of hurting him in ways that I can't. And I wouldn't mind. I mean, if we both came around the corner, I'd be like, you go, and when you're done, then we'll do the empathy.
Right.
This is why my friend Mimi just did that.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
Look,
it's tough.
I have a fantasy of watching that man have to leave the White House. You know, I want to see him dragged out of there in tears.
Yep.
I want to see him, you know, with his pants wet, and you know, I have rarely in my life had such a visceral response now of hatred to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I was a better person. That's, as we've discussed before, one of the things that's happened over the last 4 years is that, well, the alt-white has been radicalized. Well, so has the left.
Yeah.
I'm radicalized. There is no quarter now. Don't give me any of this bullshit about, well, you have to now reach out and understand why the Trump voter voted. No, I don't. These people were sitting there laughing and pointing and enjoying that people were suffering. They thought it was the greatest gag in the world. I have no obligation to understanding them. None at all. They wanted me dead. And now I need to understand why? No, I don't.
Yeah.
You don't argue with a Nazi. You don't.
Yeah, no.
You don't argue with Nazis. All you do, it's like arguing with a pig. You know, it bores the pig and it wastes your time. Don't do it.
That's what we keep talking about here. It's just like the thing that angers me most is how angry and how the hatred I feel. Like, I don't like feeling that way. Like, all my meditation goes out the window, and I just have to kind of keep bringing myself back. But
I'll tell you something that maybe will help. I think you need to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing you need to do is you need to accept it, because when you accept it, then you can look at the why of it, and then you can start to let it go.
Yeah.
But it cannot be overstated that for a vast majority of people, for more than 50% of the population, this has been a sustained and traumatic beating. We've been punished and picked on and hurt and bullied and attacked and to ask us to suddenly now forgive the people who were doing it or try to understand is absurd. This was an administration that today, I mean, even up to this moment, is legitimately actively trying to hurt people. Mm-hmm. In the last week have said that, that queer individuals seeking asylum will be denied. Like, that's a policy change.
Oh,
you cannot seek asylum now in the U.S. on the basis of persecution because of your sexual identity.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that.
The only fucking reason to do that is to hurt people. It's the only reason to do it is to hurt them. And that's what they've done. So don't you dare come to me and say, oh, try to understand. No, I got nothing there to understand. Oh, what I understand is this. You're spiteful, ignorant, hateful people, and I want you gone. You do not wish to learn. You wanted me and my family dead. You wanted my friends dead. So you should count yourself lucky that I do not want the same for you. Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You should understand how fortunate you are that my response to your hatred is not to scream for your blood.
Mm-hmm. Because that's what they actually would be doing in the reverse, which we've seen.
Yes.
It's
that. Put it this way. I have never heard. That's not entirely true. We can talk about environmental terrorism and so on, but it certainly wasn't an alt-left Antifa person who bombed the federal building in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. It certainly wasn't anybody from quote unquote Antifa who drove into protesters in Charlotte. All right, these people kill.
Yeah.
That's what their hatred does. And you can talk about what happened in Portland, but what happened in Portland comes out of a self-defense situation. It literally comes out of a place where a man believed a person of color was going to die if he did not act. And the motivation there is everything, because the understanding, the given there is that, oh, they're hunting people of color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy.
You don't get there by accident. Yeah. So nah.
Well, here's to undoing everything in 2021 that's been done in the last 4 years.
That's a separate conversation because it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
this is perhaps a respite and a chance to get some ground back. Mm-hmm. But,
yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah, this is not going to solve it. So.
Yeah, it's been rough. But at least we have that, light at the turn. It definitely could have been worse. You and I were having panic attacks a few months ago, like a month ago.
It will be very, very nice to be able to wake up and not worry about what the White House did overnight.
Yeah. I have to see or hear the little feeds and all that going off. My anxiety is just going to be so much better. So that alone is really good. But
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yeah. So quick final thing before we sign off for the final show of the year. But we do like this little end of the year game. And one of the questions was like, oh, if you had another name, what would it be? And, we read them out and everyone guesses whose was what. And my name was Forever Carlisle.
Very nice.
And only Oscar knew why or what. And all the kids
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I thought you'd find that a lot of fun. And
I dig it.
I keep telling all my friends and people who are starting to get into Lazarus and stuff to join the Discord, which I finally got around to.
Yes, you finally did.
Well, this is ironic.
It's a very nice community.
It
is a really good community.
It's very strange because I'm very bold and in terms of when I'm in person with people or talking to people. I am I'm like the opposite of most people online, because to me, most people online are like these social different personalities, and I'm like completely like inward,
Yeah.
and I'm always like very I don't know if I should say anything, or so I'm like more of a watcher, but I'm trying to be engaging, since I think some of the people there
It is a
know that
very
we
welcoming
chat
community.
and they know us,
Yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
so I'm like,
And we should actually be able to put up. We should be able to fix it so you can put up links to the podcast if you like. So.
oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. So, but I was like, okay, let me finally get around to doing this, and it's like a horrible excuse, but I read all my stuff digital, so I'm always like, oh, let me get my device to scan the QR code. And Oscar finally, because he was like, nope, we're going to scan it right now. And because we both had our devices, it was really funny. And I was like, as technologically advanced as I am, I was like, I don't know how to scan a QR code. But it's lovely. It's very lovely. And so, yes, thank you for welcoming me into the.
You are very welcome, and everybody is welcome in that community. The rules are very simple.
Yes.
It is the Will Wheaton rule of don't be a dick.
Yeah, so. basically. So with that, have a wonderful December, end of the year.
You as well.
And
that. I wish happy holidays to you and everybody who has stuck with us.
Yes,
and
thank you, listeners.
Hopefully a very happy new year. And yeah, we will talk. We'll talk in 2021.
We'll talk in 2021. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Culture Chat and hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe and rate my podcast. Feel free to leave me suggestions or send an email to mimi@culturechatpodcast.com or follow me on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.